But let's close out the podcast, Mark, talking about our top 10 for running backs, fantasy running backs, not just running backs, fantasy football running back rankings. Yet again, if you're on podcast services around the world, thank you guys for sticking with us. If you're on YouTube, this is your first time, maybe your first time. You haven't checked out the other two. We did our 21 through 30. We did our 11 through 20. You can check those out after this video and kind of go 1 through 30 if you wanted to at this point. But let's get into our top 10. We'll kind of say them, then we'll talk about a few of them a little bit. Let's get right into them. At number 10, LA Charger. I'm always going to make that mistake.
San Diego.
I'm always going to make that mistake. LA Charger, Melvin Gordon. Then at number 9, Minnesota Viking, Dalvin Cook, coming back this year. So excited for it. Then Jacksonville Jaguar running back Leonard Fournette at 8. That was an interesting one because both you and me had him at 8, and that's where he ended up laying, right at the number 8 ranking. Then Kansas City Chief Kareem Hunt at 7. Number 6, Alvin Kamara, the New Orleans Saints running back. Then at number 5, the rookie, the first running back off the board this past May for the draft, Saquon Barkley of the New York G-Men, football giants. Then Le'Veon Bell, Pittsburgh Steelers running back at 4. David Johnson coming back from an injury. He'll be the running back of the Arizona Cardinals. Then at number 2, Ezekiel Elliott, Cowboy running back. And at number 1, the LA Ram, Todd Gurley. First guy I want to bring up, and before I can't remember, I had you do this off the podcast, on the podcast, picking a number 1 and 2. You picked 2.
Yep.
So number 1 was Le'Veon Bell. We will get to him. I'm just going to push him to the side. Cool. First guy I want to ask you about then, because you picked it, Dalvin Cook. What are your expectations for him? He's at number 9.
Oh, this is tough.
Are we going to, is having him at 9 off the injury too hype? Are the hype levels exceeding what we need him at?
The hype levels out there. And there's actually, in my personal, I had him at number 11. I purposefully put him at the first guy.
I might have had him at 7. I might have had him at 7.
You did. I had him as the first guy out of the top 10 because of the ACL injury. And you just don't know what's going to happen. Now, that injury, October 1st, it's a long, long time ago.
Well, you know what happened?
Got plenty of time to heal.
You know what happened the last time a Viking running back came off an ACL injury?
So, if we've learned anything from the rules of balance,
it's just going to be a record season.
Bust.
It's going to be a rookie season, man.
So, it's just going to be interesting to see.
Season.
Now, here's the thing for Dalvin Cook. He came off such a great such great success. And like we just talked about in the last video, for those of you on YouTube, earlier in the podcast, for the rest of you, this team is set up very well. It is a solid team. Any running back can be successful. Dalvin Cook should be. He definitely should be. If he stays healthy, he's got great potential to be a top 5 running back, without a doubt. Really, the question mark is just going to be, how's that knee? How's that ACL? How's it looking?
And I mean, the biggest fear I have this year for Dalvin Cook has nothing to do with Dalvin Cook. I think he'll come fine off of the injury. My biggest fear is the offensive change, with Pat Shurmur no longer being there. DeFilippo, however you say it, is our offensive
DeFilippo.
DeFilippo, that's what I was thinking. Thanks for helping me out there, buddy. You were all over it because he was almost a candidate for your Bears.
I liked him.
But that's the biggest thing that worries me, and I use air quotes with that. Because
you got Kirk Cousins, too. Are they going to want to... it's the same thing that we talked about with Jimmy G, also with Josh Allen. Are they going to want to just sling it? They might.
Which, I mean, could help out Dalvin Cook because, I mean, he did have 16 targets, 11 receptions for, get this, 11 receptions for 90 yards. He was averaging 8 yards per catch before he got injured as well. So, I mean, we don't really know. Like, that 16 targets is a super small sample size of what is he going to be able to do with both. And that's why I have him at 7. Because if you notice, most of the guys in this region, Dalvin Cook, Alvin Kamara, Kareem Hunt, Saquon Barkley, we've been saying about it in the draft. Most of these guys can get it done in the rushing attack and the receiving attack.
Yeah.
They are dual threats out of that backfield.
And that's why people are so high on Alvin Kamara. We talked about it at the very beginning of the podcast, where it's interesting how, I guess more in the middle, Mark Ingram, who is the more solid running back is further back than Alvin Kamara, who's probably sitting there technically on the depth chart as running back number 2. But people are so high on the ability to throw and to get those receptions, especially if you're a PPR league. But even as a standard, you love having the potential rushing touchdown, the just rushing yards that you have, the added bonus of that, which just drives up the value of one of those guys. Honestly, most of the people on this top 10, that's exactly what they are. You know, you have people who are going to catch the ball as well, as opposed to having someone who's just going to purely go right up the middle.
Let's get into the other guy, though, the big one that everyone wanted us to talk about, but we held him off. What are your thoughts on Le'Veon Bell? Because for me, so he ends up at 4 overall, just for a little transparency. You had him at 3.
Yeah.
I feel like you were ranking him as if he was starting week 1.
I did, yeah.
There he's going to be. My caveat is this, and you guys can love it, hate it, not even care about it, but here's what it is. I had him at 6. Kind of like almost the same thing with you and Dalvin Cook, where I'm going to have him at 11, potential for a top 5. As long as that contract is not signed, and he is iffy to start week 1, he is outside of my top 5. If you have that question, you're outside my top 5, because I think that Alvin Kamara to me is a running back that could be in that top 5. David Johnson without an injury is top 5. Saquon Barkley has the potential to be top 5. And of course, Zeke and Todd Gurley are there. However, there's a tweet that I saw today. I don't know exactly when he posted it, but it just said 9-9-18, hashtag just be patient. So no one knows if that means when he's going to sign a contract, if he's just excited for the new season, if he's excited to sit. What are your thoughts on Le'Veon? Because my thoughts are kind of the same as Ezekiel Elliott. If there's a question of a holdout, don't draft him. And like, it depends on when your draft is. Hopefully it's later, more like that week 3, week 4 of preseason. Maybe he'll have signed a contract by then, but until he signs a contract, I'm taking 5 other running backs above him.
Yeah, I mean, if you're scared of him not playing games, and like we said, part of it is he says that he's not going to play. He says he's not going to play unless he's got a long-term deal. So do you want to trust him on that? Do you want to do that? And for Le'Veon Bell, I completely understand. He's a guy who's had some injuries in the past. Not a ton, but he's had injuries. I mean, he's really technically only, I think, once had a complete 16-game season. Last year he should have, but week 17 they didn't play the starters. So, you know, there are some issues there. Now, for Le'Veon Bell, my concern for Le'Veon Bell compared to last year is purely he had so many touches last year. It is going to be very surprising if he gets the same amount of touches this year as he got last. Still 1,000-yard rusher, still going to get probably 500 receiving yards, if not more. I mean, he is going to be a top guy. Won't have as crazy and heavy as a workload, but even with some regression, he is going to be a guy you want, especially if you're in a PPR league. But yeah, Le'Veon Bell is not going to be
107 targets last year in the reception, in the receiving game.
You love it. He's not going to be your clear shot number 1 guy, I think, this year. I do expect a little bit of a regression, but, you know, he's a top five pick. You got to go grab him.
And I mean, the good thing is there's no running back behind him that's obviously going to challenge him for a starting job.
Yeah, they didn't draft anybody. They were too busy drafting somebody to be behind Big Ben.
Now, my big kind of, not worry, but this is the thing I'm going to bring into it, is besides him not playing week 1, because we don't know what's going to happen there, but when it comes to your whole, the amount of carries, 321, and the amount of targets out of the backfield, like, he had the second most targets on that team and the second most receptions on that team. Is that going to change? Is Juju Smith going to get a few more targets, a few more receptions? He only had 80 targets, and he was still phenomenal. He was on my fantasy team, did great things, almost had an 1,000-yard season through the air because of his big playability with 15.8 yards per catch. My question is James Washington coming in. I know people are going to be like, oh, he's a rookie, don't worry about it. But Juju Smith was a rookie. And is James Washington going to fit into this big play offense and take some of those passing options, passing targets, away from Le'Veon Bell. Not enough to say, oh, he's not a top 10 fantasy option, but will it be enough to matter in some games where someone, I had Le'Veon Bell and I lost by 1 this week. If he would have had one more touch, got 2 more yards, would have won.
It's going to be interesting, too, to think about the new offensive coordinator, Randy Fitchner. Yep. I think I'm saying that right, who replaced Todd Haley. And, what are they going to do? How is he going to do something differently? Are they going to kind of try and take some pressure off of Le'Veon Bell? Especially if it's me, and if I am the Pittsburgh Steelers and I get Le'Veon Bell signed to a long-term deal, it is with the understanding that you are not going to be the same workload that you've been under these last couple of years. We are going to reduce that, because if I'm signing you long term, I'm expecting you to be here long term. Yeah. And you can't be the, number 2 wide receiver and also the number 1 running back and expect you to be here for 3, 4, 5 years. That workload will catch up to you. That's the thing for Le'Veon that I would be afraid of. But with that still being said, he's going to get the ball. He is going to have it in his hands, and when he gets it in his hands, it's a whole different game. Well,
that's and I don't want to just abruptly change gears, but the one guy that kind of reminds me of to a bigger scale is Kareem Hunt, to where not only are we changing your coaching staff, Andy Reid's still there, but one of the, I don't want to say the mastermind, but the guy that we think behind the offense, behind obviously the play calling, especially later in the year, is gone. He's here in Chicago. Welcome, Matt Nagy. Mark is happy that you're here.
Love it.
But you change that, plus your quarterback is different. You get a guy who's only played 1 NFL game in the regular season. Week 17 didn't look terrible. Patrick Mahomes. What's the thought process with you? Are we going to see a dip with Kareem Hunt because of those 2 factors, or is he fine?
Well, I would expect to see probably a little bit of a dip from him because of the fact that, he got 1,300 yards last year. I mean, that's pretty great. I would expect a little bit back. And let's not forget that he is still a running back on an Andy Reid team. What is Andy Reid known for? Forgetting about his running backs, ignoring that they exist. And he's got Patrick Mahomes. What is Patrick Mahomes known for? The guy can sling it. So, it's just one of those things where you're scared a little bit of that potential, but Kareem Hunt, if he gets the ball in his hands, it's a whole different animal. And I'm hoping that they learn their lesson, because remember, the Kansas City Chiefs were starting to fall apart last year.
Well, and that's why...
Kareem Hunt wasn't getting touches, and that's a big part of it.
Not just that, but the OC change and the quarterback change is why maybe this was an overreaction by me, why I had him at 9. Because it's you know what? You look at all the other ones... one of them might be, okay, I'm overhyping Dalvin Cook a little bit by having him at 7, but let me have it. But then you look at the other ones where Alvin Kamara, nothing really changes on that offense except for, nothing except for Willie Snead leaving. I was going to say Brandon Cooks, but I'm that happened at the beginning of last year. Nothing really changes on that offense. He could even show some progression in fantasy points moving forward. Ezekiel Elliott, he missed 6 games, but you didn't expect. It's not like he's coming off an injury.
Yeah.
He's just coming off of a suspension. Where David Johnson, the interesting thing, coming off of an injury, how's that going to be? Saquon's got the rookie question. Leonard Fournette, how is his team? How is he going to operate?
Year 2 now.
Well, year 2, and they don't have those passing options in Hearns and Robinson anymore. That's why, to me, I wonder if a guy like Alvin Kamara can jump up. If a guy like Saquon can solidify himself in a top 5 and kind of jumble these running backs a little bit because of the changes that we're seeing, especially like Leonard Fournette and Kareem Hunt.
Well, Alvin Kamara is one of those interesting ones to me because you think that Ingram is suspended 4 games. I know I mentioned this already.
Even if he doesn't get more touches, I think he could be a top 3 back.
I mean, Sean Payton said that to increase his workload would be a mistake. And I think that's very interesting because that means to me...
It's a system, not a player.
Yeah, there's that, and there's also the idea that they're going to go get somebody to cover for Mark Ingram. That's why people are talking about Adrian Peterson to the Saints again, even though it wasn't that great. But that's why they're talking about it again. They're mentioning it again. They're going to try and get someone. They're not going to just say Alvin Kamara is our 3-down back. for these 4 games. They might. I mean, it's technically possible, but I highly doubt it. But Alvin Kamara still has a chance to get up there. You know, that's my fear for him, just Sean Payton's comments that literally just happened, and how true to that he's potentially going to be. You know, but with a guy like Saquon Barkley, who you mentioned, I'm extremely excited about that. And maybe it's just the fact that we've seen so many rookie running backs be really successful, and we're getting a little spoiled. But they need to take some of that pressure off of Eli. They've got Odell out there. They got Shepard out there. You know, they have a lot of really good pass-catching options that are going to help a running back, because you can't stack the box. You have to respect the passing game. And I think that's really going to help. I think that will make a big difference in having yet another rookie running back very successful.
Well, and I mean, if you want to fill that hole of, I don't know if you sign a guy just to fill it for 4 weeks, but you can. The top 3 guys that are still on the board, according to WalterFootball.com, DeMarco Murray is still out there, but he's 30 years old. You've got Alfred Morris is still out there, Orleans Darkwa, and then Adrian Peterson. Those are your top 4.
Yeah. And you're trying to find someone to be Mark Ingram.
Jamal Charles would be your 5th. Unless I think he might have signed with the Broncos. I'm not completely sure on that one, but that would be the ones that you'd be thinking about. But really, to me, I think the Kamara is, he doesn't have to up his touches. I just think he'll be better in year 2. And this Saints team is going to be better overall. He'll be more of an, not option is like, oh, we're going to give him more carries, but maybe a few more receptions out of the backfield, depending on how defenses play different receivers. With Willie Snead not being there, how's that going to affect the targets that go around from Drew Brees? Because Brees, he likes to spread the ball around.
He does. To put it out there, Jamal Charles still a free agent, so he's available. Yeah, I definitely think Alvin Kamara will be an interesting one to see what happens with that. You know, there's also the potential with Alvin Kamara, and it's a risky thing to say, so don't yell at me in the comments. Don't at me. But, you know, Alvin Kamara, if these 4 games he's going out, if you got an idiot in your league, you might trade him. You might say, hey, here you go. Have Alvin Kamara, the number 1 running back in New Orleans, for all of these things that I want. And they're going to take him, and then they're going to be upset when, you know, Mark Ingram comes back, and then all of a sudden things are split.
Yep.
But we'll see what happens with that. So, I don't know. I don't know there.
I'm just going to throw this out there. You take it where you may.
All right.
I think we've held off long enough.
Cool.
Saquon.
Well, I started to talk about Saquon a little bit. I think that the pass-catching options out there, like Odell, Shepard, you know, you have some great weapons, and you have to take pressure off of Eli.
But they added...
You can't expect all that.
They didn't just add Saquon Barkley. Jonathan Stewart's going to be there as well. Does that hurt his fantasy option rookie year?
I mean, it does, because you have another solid, competent running back out there. But it's not going to be Jonathan Stewart, Christian McCaffrey. You know, Saquon Barkley will, I expect, to be running back number 1. He will demand it. He's probably not going to be a 3-down back right now, and that's okay. He doesn't need to be. He's going to have those fresh legs. He can do that. People, because he's a rookie, might be scared to draft him high, so that might be a good thing.
Do you think people think us having him 5, because both of us had him at 5, will some out there think that's crazy?
Well, people are going to... Saquon Barkley is in a rough spot because he was drafted number 2 overall. And there are still people that I see that are saying it's a mistake to draft a running back 2 overall.
Running backs
so that's going to be a thing always.
Running backs that were drafted that high, if not in the same range. Ezekiel Elliott, who we have at number 2.
Yep.
Leonard Fournette, who's in our top 10.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's definitely... some good potential for him to be really successful. We've been spoiled, though, with these rookie running backs being successful.
Being phenomenal.
So, you know, we are kind of due for someone to not be that good. I still think Saquon Barkley is going to be great. I really expect him to be a very good option. And Eli doesn't mind throwing it to running backs.
No.
So why wouldn't Saquon Barkley get some catches either?
And I'm trying to look up. Leonard Fournette was the guy who was drafted for... Yeah, Zeke and Fournette was for. So Saquon went earlier than both of those guys. Do you know off the top of your head who was the... And this will be a little trivia for you. who was the first running back off the board in 2015's draft?
2015?
This is actually funny because he's number 1 in our rankings.
Todd Gurley?
Todd Gurley went 10th
That was 2015?
overall. 2015.
Feels like Todd Gurley's been in the league longer than that.
Forever. But I mean, look at that. The last 3 running backs who were the first one drafted off the board, already top 10.
Yeah.
Todd Gurley 3 years, Zeke 2 years, Leonard Fournette 1 year in the league. So I mean, that to me is like, and to me also with these fantasy rankings, this is how I feel the top goes. There's an argument for 1 and 2. It just depends which one you like better, Todd Gurley or Ezekiel Elliott.
Sure.
With everything going on with the Cowboys and how they kind of went down last year, yeah, that was kind of because of the suspension from Zeke. I like the consistency better with what's going on in L.A. and Todd Gurley. So that's why I had Gurley above Zeke, but you can make an argument 1-2 there. For every other position, 3 through 5, there are 4 backs you can make the argument for to put in that top 5 for the 3 spot. Kamara, Johnson, Barkley, and Bell. They're the only ones. And really, let's be honest, if Le'Veon puts in there, because like I said, if he starts week 1, he's in the top 5, that means Kamara or Barkley might be out unless you're low on David Johnson coming off of the ACL injury.
Yeah. Yeah, and honestly, I understand if someone is low on David Johnson.
Are you going to get mad, though, if you get any of these top 6 guys as your main running back?
You really shouldn't be at all. But I understand why people might be a little low on David Johnson, and I'm not going to blame them for being scared of injuries, although in that case you got to be scared with Dalvin Cook. There's a lot of guys you got to be scared of in this case. But I actually think that Sam Bradford is a good quarterback. He's a very accurate quarterback. So that's going to do really good things for a running back for David Johnson. And, he's got a really good weapon out there, too. Now, the thing to remember is that Josh Rosen is there, so there eventually might be a change, especially due to injury. So there is some question there. But, yeah, I mean, Sam Bradford does good things for running backs. You should be excited to be a running back if Sam Bradford's your quarterback.
Let me ask you this. I mentioned it a little bit. I'll ask you. What's the thought process with you when you were thinking 1-2? And was Todd Gurley the clear number 1? Or did Zeke fight it a little bit?
I mean, there's a little bit of that Zeke fight there. And I do think the Cowboys are going to want to have a really big, kind of resurgence this year. The thing for me with Todd Gurley is just that LA Rams offense was so explosive. And even if you do expect to have a little bit of a fallback this year, now that we've got some good tape on everybody,
I mean, really it's
still so explosive.
Really, the only thing I can really think changing on that offense is what you got rid of you lost Sammy Watkins, but you added Brandon Cooks.
Yeah, you get a weapon.
You added Brandon Cooks, plus this defense got 10 times better with adding Ndamukong Suh.
Which just helps to get more carries.
Get the ball back into the
get the ball more in the offense so you can have more carries.
Touches, yeah.
And this is an offense that is very, they're thinking about how we can be kind of fast, how we can be explosive, how we can get these touchdowns, how we can score lots of points. Yeah, they're going to like to throw the ball, but they know they've got a great, if not one of the best running backs out there. They're going to do everything they can to just have the ball in Todd Gurley's hands. And that, to me, just stole it for him from Zeke Elliott, who, even though the Cowboys will do a lot of similar ideas, the Cowboys don't have as good of a defense as I'm expecting the Rams defense to be. I'm expecting good things out of the Rams defense this year.
And really, the thing you got to look at, and I know this doesn't go all into the running back, but as a team overall, the Cowboys are going to have more competition in their division than the Rams will have in theirs.
Definitely.
Seahawks on the way down. 49ers, they're on the way up, but they're not there yet. Cardinals, I don't really know are they up, are they down, are they staying the same, but they're nowhere near the level of the Rams.
The Cardinals should go up this year.
But lower than, they'll probably be the 4th best team in that division.
They were 8-8 last year.
But I'm saying record-wise.
They were 8-8 without David Johnson and with an injured Carson Palmer.
Okay. I still think that the Niners take a bigger up-crease this year, and they finished 3rd.
Up-crease, that's Seahawks, a new one for you.
Up-crease, up-climb, what am I thinking about with words? But the point is, the Rams have an easier division to me than the Cowboys do with the Giants, who have an improved team, the Eagles, who are defending Super Bowl champions, and the Redskins, who hope to do better with Alex Smith compared to Kirk
I honestly
Cousins.
think it's kind of a push.
Okay.
Between those two.
Okay.
But
any final thoughts with the top 10? I think the only one we didn't mention, but we didn't talk about, but we mentioned was Melvin Gordon.
Yeah, and a lot of people are actually expecting that the Chargers are going to be really good this year, as we always do, right?
Yep. Bolt up.
Yeah. Melvin Gordon, I mean, he should be good. The thing that's always going to be unfortunate for Melvin Gordon, he always gets a little overshadowed, of course, by Todd Gurley.
Yeah.
As one of them is number 1, the other one is 10.
Both of them being in LA. But I mean, I think that any of our top 10, obviously, if you get any
You're
of these
very
guys,
happy about
you're
that.
happy that they're your starting running back.
The only one that you
your
might
team.
not be happy about is Dalvin Cook, because then you got a Viking on your team. And that's upsetting.
I thought you were going to say the ACL injury, but you went with that one. But
Yep.
let us know what you guys think down below about our top 10. If you're listening to the full podcast, either on YouTube or podcast services around the world, let us know what you thought about the whole thing. Housekeeping here at the end. If you like what we're doing, want to help support us, check out patreon.com/mostvaluedpodcast. If you want to join an onside kick, you can do so by supporting us at the $10 tier. You can also check out our store to get yourself an MVP t-shirt. That link is also in the description down below. You also have mostvaluablepodcasts.com. That's where you get the store and everything for MVP each and every day. And last but not least, go ahead on Apple Podcasts and iTunes. Give us a 5-star rating and type us what you think about the podcast. Want to thank you guys for listening. Want to thank you guys for watching. And as always, have a good day, everybody.